With Russia's war on Ukraine raging and gas prices soaring, more and more Californians are thinking about what bubbles up from the ground that helps us stay on the go. California ranked 6th in the nation for the amount of crude oil proved reserves, 1.4 million barrels, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration as of 2 months ago. But what does that really mean? And is it to our benefit now? Industry expert and UC Berkeley professor Severin Borenstein with me now live. Welcome to Fox 40 News at 11.
Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Now, first, in some places in California, prices at the pump are actually reaching right now towards $7 a gallon. With the president's announcement yesterday about cutting off any Russian oil imports, what is that going to do to the situation, keeping in mind that as a country, we do only get a fraction of the nation's oil supply from that country?
Well, you're right. We get very little oil from Russia, and banning imports from Russia is not going to have much effect on our gas prices at all. I don't think we will notice that. The bigger issue is that there are real concerns that Russian oil could be disrupted from the world market, and that's what's driving up crude oil prices right now. And that affects everyone, whether or not you're buying Russian oil, because all oil prices go up when the market is tight. And that is why we're seeing these very, very high gas prices.
All righty. Now, drivers may hear that California has the 6th largest oil reserve in the nation, but that's not something that can just be tapped into to provide extra supply, right? The rights to access all of that are already owned.
Well, we live in a capitalist economy, and companies make decisions about what they produce, and then they sell the output at the market price. So the fact that California produces a fair amount of oil is pretty much irrelevant to what we pay for gasoline. Beyond that, California actually produces far less oil than we consume each day, less than half as much as we consume each day. So the oil in California is not any sort of solution to the problems we face with high gas prices.
Sad to hear that. A lot of people are looking for any kind of solution at all. Just another question about what is in the ground here. Why is it that what's thousands of feet underground may not be used here, may be sold off elsewhere? That seems like it would just add extra cost into the whole system, if for nothing else than the transportation of it.
Well, most of the oil drilled in California is used in California, but some of it is sold just as we buy oil from other locations, because the oil, not all oil is exactly identical, and refineries need the sort of oil, the level of sulfur in it, and the ability to turn it into gasoline that matches their refinery. So they often will, areas that have a lot of one type of oil will sell that and buy a different type of oil that's a better match with their refining capabilities.
Okay. The Federal Strategic Reserve is billions of gallons already pumped and waiting for use. So the time is now, right?
Well, it really won't make much difference. As big as the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is, compared to the amount of oil we actually consume, it would not be a huge difference, and we can't tap it that quickly. Furthermore, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is there in case of actual supply disruption, not just high prices. So generally, we are hesitant to tap it. Every president, when the price goes up, does a bit of tapping of the reserve. That is mostly symbolic. It doesn't end up helping us much on gas prices. The reality is the market for oil is very tight right now. That's why gas prices are so high, and there's pretty much nothing the state can do about it, and actually very little even the federal government can do about it.
Just so disheartening for all of us that maybe can't take the bus or, one of those electric scooters that you see everywhere now to some of the destinations that we need to get to. Now, speaking of the state, last night in his State of the State address, Governor Newsom said daily life demands too much fossil fuel and drilling more isn't the answer, as it only produces more devastating conditions here. So even with this hike in prices, will that maybe motivate the masses to go electric or hybrid? California leads the nation in this, but by no means is this the majority of what we see right now out on the roads when it comes to cars.
Yeah, there's no question that higher gas prices motivates people to buy more fuel efficient cars and to go electric. Those aren't changes you can make quickly. There is one change you can make quickly to lower your gas costs, and that is shop around. California also has the largest price dispersion among gas stations in the country. So you often see two stations within a block of each other that have prices of 50 or 75 cents difference. Go to the cheap station. That not only will save you money, but it will put pressure on those expensive stations to lower their prices. Californians seem to be less willing to go to the off-brand stations and just blindly stick with the major brands, even when they're charging much higher prices. So that's the advice, to lower your gas prices right away.
I think a lot of people believe that those off brands, you're somehow not getting the same thing, but our cars run just fine on it, right?
Our cars run just fine on it. They have the detergents to keep your engine clean. The gasoline is just fine, and you can save a whole lot of money because the branded stations are basically paying for their advertising and their brands. And when you go there, that's what you're paying for. The differential between the branded and unbranded stations in California is much larger than in the rest of the country because other drivers in the rest of the country are willing to go to those off-brand stations.
All righty, something everybody has to think about. Thank you so much for joining us today to help us understand what is very confusing and a painful time at the pump for a lot of folks. We appreciate you.